Now in this lesson we've got a beautiful photograph of Mount Cook, which is the highest mountain in New Zealand, and it's this effect that we're going to capture here today. We're also going to have a look at putting some mist in the lower parts of the mountain, because it's an effect that very often you get with snow-capped mountains, but as well you can use that in any other situation where you want mist drifting across hills, mountains and so on. Now you can see I've pre-painted the sky with quite a strong blue coming down, and I've put a few streaks of permanent rose in the sky to give a pinky glow, because when we come to put the white part of the mountain, the highlighted sunlit part, I'm actually going to add a little touch of the red just to give it that little pinky glow. So again, another example that where you have a photograph, don't be a slave to the photo. Use it by all means as reference, but also adapt it if you think you can make a better job of your painting. Now I've pre-mixed some very dark colour here. Remember me mentioning about manufacturing your own black from all the other colours? Well, here's a good example. We've got raw umber and ultramarine blue. Now when I put the mountain on with the palette knife, I don't want too much paint on to start with, so I'm not going to sort of dollop it on. You can see there is just sufficient to get me started. There we go. And there's another little peak here. We'll go down a few more little peaks. Now you can see I'm just dragging this very dark colour out to next to nothing. I'm not worried about covering every little square millimetre of canvas board. You can see these gaps, these will be fine. They will show up as snow if we miss any of them when we actually come to put the snow on. Just leaving a little gap there just so you can see where this main mountain sort of runs down and away. Okay, you can see that I've dragged this colour, this very dark colour, down the mountain to roughly where the base will be here. What I'm going to do now is to just put a strip of masking tape across the bottom, purely to give us the edge of the distant lake. What I'm actually going to do is stabbing on, well, I've got paint there. It's not quite mixed. There's a bit of brown, but it doesn't matter. That'll disappear when we put the light coloured paint on. But I'm just sort of getting a little bit of texture, 3D texture here and there, because when we bounce the white paint, or the pale blue paint rather, over this, it's really going to give us that lovely hit and miss effect. And now, most importantly, I'm going to give this a blast on the hairdryer to dry it off, so we've got some nice rough edges that we can slide the snow all over the mountain with. Now I've mixed up an area of what you can see is quite a deep mid blue. I've also, as you can see, pre-mixed some much lighter, well, almost white, but I've added a little bit of permanent rose to it to give that pinky glow, which is the same colour essentially that's in the sky. So the snow on the sunlit side of the mountain here is going to be reflecting what's in the sky. But first of all, let's put in the shadow side. And remember, this time what we want is just that small roll of paint. We don't want a palette knife full of paint, because it'll fill in the spaces. And looking carefully at the mountain, again just filling in a little bit of snow. This is all shadow side mountain. Right, I've put on all the blue that I'm going to put on. You can see again I've just scraped it on, and I've let the palette knife bounce across the canvas board, hit and miss, and it's given a nice dull shadow blue, but with some lovely areas of dark coming through. Right, now we're going to go on to the lighter side, the sunny side, which has got this mainly white but little areas of pink here and there, and I'm going to take another small roll of that, which is probably going to give me a little mixture when I put it on the canvas of white through to pink. Well, that's fine. We don't want a uniform pinkness or a uniform whiteness. This time I'm going to have to use my right hand. If you struggle to use your right hand, then there's a simple answer. You just pick the canvas up and you turn it round, and then all I'm going to do is to drag this down, get a nice sharp edge like that. Just wanted to get that edge there. This time I've taken it on that side of the blade so that we can just scrape away from ourselves. Now I'm going to turn it back just so you can see what the effect truly looks like. And there you can see already how this sunlight, this pink sunlight, is starting to catch the eye and really give the mountain some beautiful light and shade and character. I'm just dragging that out slightly so it's, although there is a ridge there, I don't want it too hard a line, so that's better. I want to leave that there because that's an important little ridge that really defines the shape of Mount Cook at the peak. Now if you pick too much paint up, don't worry about it. Just wipe it off and start again. Right, now you can see that I've just scraped in this pinky white paint all over here, there and everywhere on the sunlit side of the mountain. Obviously everything coming from the right. Now I'm just trying to find some space to create the colour I want for the mist. This will do fine. It's not going to show as grey on the picture, it's going to show virtually as white. But before I put the mist on, I'm just going to drag in a darker colour along here that's going to give me the base of the shoreline. You can see I'm just pushing that up. That could be a tree line, anything. I mean, at this distance you're not going to see any detail at all. Even the trees are going to be just a broad mass. Okay, we've taken most of the paint off the brush, and now what I'm going to do is just stab it in. You can see, you think you've taken the paint off the brush, but you can see already that there's an awful lot of paint there. The more I stab it on, the more misty it will become. Remember, I'm still starting off with the same brush full of paint that I had when I began. You can, of course, use some of the glazing medium if you want. I'll just add a little bit of that in because that will give you an even more subtle effect. Again, taking most of the paint, almost all of the paint out. I'm going to deliberately obscure this side of the mountain just to show you how you can develop things. But you can see the way that misty effect is very effective, particularly when you get it against the darker blue and certainly against the black background like that. Now, once again, if we go back into the colour, the base colour on the shoreline, you can see that's just dragging the paint very slightly. It gives you the effect of tiny little trees, and of course in doing so it brings them further forward and pushes the mist further back. I'll strip off the masking tape. That gives me the line of the shoreline of the lake in front of the mountain, and I'm now going to paint these other two areas of land, this one and this one, that creates that lovely bowl effect. And you can see that this mountain on the right hand side has really helped to push the main focal point of the picture back, Mount Cook, back into the distance. Here we've put the headland coming in and across the lake, and here I'll show you how that's done in more detail in the trees DVD. So there we are, very simple exercise, great fun, have a practice. The main thing with all of these techniques is to practice. Don't be afraid of practicing, because that's what's going to improve you. Mount Cook in all its glory, in sunlight, snow and mist.